now there's a change. Okay, now, the mall people are a little quiet now because this is more interesting than they thought it would be. Okay, quiet now. And now he goes on, and here's the part I want to introduce my next series of talks with. How shall we, the murderers of all murderers, comfort ourselves now? What was holiest that the world has yet known has bled to death under our knives, and who can wipe the blood off of us? What water is there that can clean us now? What festivals of atonement, what sacred games shall we have to invent? What new myths, what new ways to live shall we have to invent? Is not the greatness of our deed still far too great for us? Must not we ourselves become God simply to be worthy of it? Here the madman fell silent and looked again at the listeners, and they were silent and astonished. At last he threw his lantern on the ground, and it broke and went out. I come too early. My time has not yet come, said the madman. This tremendous event is still on its way, still wandering. It has not yet reached the ears of man. Lightning and thunder require time, and the light of the stars requires even more time. Deeds, too, require time, even after they are done, before they can be seen and heard by many. This deed is still more distant from some of them than the most distant star, and yet they have done it themselves. It has been related further, Nietzsche again, it has been related further that on that same day the madman entered various churches, and there he sang his requiem to a dead god. Led out and called to account, he is said to have replied each time, "What are these churches now, if not the sepulchres and the tombs of God?" What are these churches now, if not the sepulchres and the tombs of God? Well, there's the famous death of God parable for what it's worth or not worth. It takes a lot of interpreting, but it's a very, very, for me, a very exciting and interesting, challenging, powerful, and serious moment. And philosophers are very seldom ever really serious. You can tell that from Socrates. And sometimes the best part about them is they're not too serious. But that's a very serious moment for Nietzsche. And it's also a moment that I think that I'd like to bring down to earth just a bit, because this is still a deed quite distant from us, and it may take quite a bit of work to pull it closer. But it's really hard not to catch a sense for that. Coming from the university I come from, where we have one of the world's great cathedrals, Duke Chapel, and we have a beautiful stained glass painting of various saints, martyrs, apostles, and Christ. But most important, and I want to return to Nietzsche's first line about the marketplace, our madman went to the marketplace to tell the news, because it's in the marketplace where the news, in the new era of the world, in the new world order, the marketplace where the news needed to be spread. Okay? In any case, in Duke Chapel, it's a beautiful chapel, and I mean it's the best imitation you can get this side of Europe. Built in the 30s, I think, 20s, 30s, right? 20s, 30s, something like that. Well, in this chapel, you wander through, and for a moment, your sense of reverence is almost there. You almost can remember some of those feelings when you were very young and you thought just maybe that was right or whatever. But you wander off the edge of the chapel, and usually it's very cool in there, and they're playing Bach, and it's just a nice place to go in the afternoon meditate. But as you wander off, then there are the barons of tobacco, and all of the barons of tobacco, the Washington Duke family, all buried in state. Not cardinals, not saints, not martyrs, No Thomas Aquinas, no St. Thomas More, but George Washington Duke and his family, the buyers and sellers of America's first international commodity, tobacco. The fortune upon which that church is erected and to which it is dedicated. What is that magnificent church now but the tomb and the sepulcher of God? This has always seemed to me a striking example from a local perspective. I mean, you need to visit the chapel if you come to Duke, and you're welcome to do so. I will bring up a few themes from the genealogy again, but by the time we've reached this moment of the death of God, we already have a strange change in the discourse of Nietzsche's text, because now the challenge will be for me to present what I have only so far indicated, and it's indicated in the parable. What new games, new festivals can human beings, insofar as there is any life that remains, what could be invented now to make up for what has already been destroyed? And that's the challenge we'll have in the next classes, is to see, first, what does Nietzsche offer us by way of any new myth like that, and more importantly, what myths could we construct ourselves, what games, what holy festivals, what interesting books, fascinating arguments, and new ways to live, other than the pathetic, tragic, stupid, banal array of ordinary, everyday, bourgeois, stinking life. Surely we can do better than that. Surely. So that's the project that we will head out on, you know, because we don't want to end with a thought that always seems to me ghastly, and especially after reading Nietzsche, that to imagine someone looking at your tombstone years from now, and it says, Bill Riley, you know, gives the dates. It's always comforting to me. Visit graveyards, I like it. Sold tires. Now, I don't know if any of you sell tires, and I know people are driven to that and worse, but still, that would be a great salesman, wonderful friend, nice chum. To experience that horror, just that horror, may require some effort from us, but I want us to experience it so that we might think of some new games, some new ways to live.